Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October meeting of Wodonga City Council. I'd like to start with a welcome and acknowledgement of country. Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of the country and as traditional custodians of the land. We respect their ancestors, elders and young people and recognise their continuous connections to lands, waters and communities across the country. We're all here tonight, so there's no apologies. Any requests for leave? No. And we're all here, so we don't need electronic means. Any declarations by councillors of conflicts of interest? No. Confirmation of minutes from the last council meeting. Do I have a motion? Councillor Hall, Councillor Chamberlain.
I'll just move the recommendation.
Any conversations, comments, or I put the motion? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. I'm advised that we don't have any questions for tonight and that we don't have any petitions. Do we have any delegates' reports? No. Moving to item 8.1, good governance framework. Do I have a motion? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, as per recommendation. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder?
Just for clarity, which recommendation?
Sorry. All four recommendations as one unit, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, this is the good governance framework, which we have to look at and amend from time to time. There's been some minor changes made in this, and I think it's appropriate. The other recommendations go to that, although they are separate issues. It's all within the one document, and I think it's appropriate, as is put in the agenda, that these things be adopted. Thank you.
Councillor Poulton. Reserve. Councillor Hall.
Yes, I would just like to move an amendment to the motion. Sorry.
Councillor Hall, your amendment, please.
No. The amendment is on in the good governance rules, page 124, 85.4. Any request made under sub-rule 85.3 must. So what I'm proposing to change is, or to add, is 85.4.2 be given to the Chief Executive Officer and Mayor no later than 24 hours prior to the commencement of the relevant council meeting. We had discussed that.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. So you're including the words
and Mayor.
And Mayor.
Yeah.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Hall, on the amendment.
It was discussed at the workshop, and I raised it that we include the mayor because I think it's important as the Chief Executive Officer for him to be informed of any something that's relevant to the council beforehand, and he should be notified as well, just in case it doesn't get back to him and it's needed that he knows to know that. So,
thank you, Councillor Coulty. Any other councillors wish to speak on the amendment? Councillor Chamberlain.
Just as the mover of the amendment of the initial motion, I don't have any problem with that amendment, in as much as it doesn't really change the principle of what we're doing, except obviously makes it formal that the mayor be informed although I would have thought the CEO would have passed that on. Thank you.
In that event, the seconder, no, sorry, not the seconder to the amendment, the seconder to the motion, do you accept that the proposed amendment? So we'll accept the amendment without putting it to the vote with the consent of the mover and seconder. All good. Thank you. Let's go back to the debate. We have Councillor Chamberlain has spoken. Anybody else wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, probably just echo Councillor Chamberlain's words, really. It's something that has to be updated and looked at all the time. I think we've made appropriate changes in light of some historic events, and I think it's a good move moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Any other councillors? Councillor Hall.
Yes, this came back to us. It came up to us, I think, some months ago, and we decided to bring it back to council to do a workshop on, because we, as councillors, we didn't have the opportunity to workshop it and to really go through it, which I felt should have been done, and I thought was important. So we did get an opportunity to workshop the content, which was great, because it also gave us an opportunity to discuss and modify some of the rules and wording in the document. Also gave councillors an opportunity to understand the document better and how it would help councillors and staff in sourcing information in one document instead of many. Although we still have our governance rules and code of conduct in their policy-owned document form, the Good Governance Framework is a detailed, comprehensive document which covers all of our governance policies, and it will help both staff and councillors to navigate our policies and identify and understand what is required of our positions within the council hierarchy. So I think at the end we got a better document out of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Other councillors? No other councillors? Councillor Poulton, you're reserved.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just for anybody in the gallery who's playing along and maybe haven't had a chance to read the agenda, essentially this is addressing governance of Wodonga Council and reinforcing and strengthening it from learning episodes over the last couple of years. So when our current CEO commenced and brought some, I guess, knowledge and experience from Queensland and New South Wales local government sectors, he did originally put in front of us a good governance framework that was quite strongly worded, that was modelled off some other states and how they operate, and said we would embrace, and essentially it would almost be essential for us to follow every component of that good governance framework. Understandably and rightly so, councillors are able to, I guess, display some resistance to that, and we have been able to bring it back to workshop process and get some good changes, although I guess now the guise of that is may, which is probably in terms of we may execute a few professional development opportunities and things like that. I'd probably be more personally on the side of embracing that we definitely, and successive councillors beyond this council group, would sign up to constant improvement professionally, and the community would expect, I guess, a return on investment from that, in the sense that they would run the city even better with every new bit of information they took into their minds. So having said that, that's only the good governance framework part of this. The governance rules, obviously, yes, do need to be updated, and they'll be out for public display now for 21 days, should this resolution or motion get up this evening. And then you've got your professional development policy to slot in, I guess, reinforce, and your councillor and staff interactions policy as well. So all in all, sensible actions to take. Some councils would form the view that you could be stronger and a little firmer, and some said, you know, we don't want to set ourselves up for failure or pigeonhole ourselves in case components of this are used politically against each other in the future or in future councils. So I guess after an election next year, there is the chance that a new council may strengthen or change again this particular set of framework. But I'm just about out of time, but I will be supporting this one this evening. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
No, I think just obviously other councillors have reiterated what we're saying, and this is all about good governance, and good governance is a fluid document for good reason. The more we learn, the more we need to update it to make sure we're relevant. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item is item 8.2, Councillor Code of Conduct. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion? Councillor Chamberlain?
As recommended, Mr Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Coulty? Councillor Chamberlain?
Again, this is a council code of conduct because of the requirement of the votes in this, because we need to have a 2/3 majority, I understand. This was separated out from the previous item. And again, this is the rules under which we need to interact with each other and staff, and it's appropriate that we strengthen it and make sure that it does the job it's designed to do. So I will be supporting our adoption of this code. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Coulty? Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Lowe?
No, I'm happy to endorse the Councillor Code of Conduct tonight. I think it's basically, it's a document, as per Councillor Chamberlain said, that guides us on how we work with each other and how we work with staff, and basically are guidelines for us to act as adults and not children. So I'll be happy to support it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Any other councillors? Councillor Poulton?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just highlight the fact I think last time we had our code of conduct in front of us, it wasn't successful. I think we went back to 2021, but I guess some of the things that were identified back then fairly early in this council term, we're still within this draft document ready to come before us, and obviously there's been naturally over that period of time more changes and another workshop conducted that's arrived us to this one this evening, and it will receive my support. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Coulty, reserved.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not much really to add. Code of Conduct is an important document, our working manual of how we act, how we interact with each other, how we resolve any conflicts should they occur, a role of the mayor, role of deputy mayor, role of the CEO, our behavior of individual councillors should we disagree with the majority decision, our behavior on social media, our behavior when offered gifts or hospitality, to name but a few. We are basically making a few changes. The changes are not major, and in my opinion, they add clarity to the wording. So I have no reason not to support this document. I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coulty. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Yeah, nothing to add. I think it's fairly clear that this document, should be supported as it is a guide for how we operate. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I put the vote, I'll just note that this is a resolution under the Local Government Act that requires 75% of elected councillors to vote in favour for the matter to pass. So I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 8.3, response to Minister Horn. Councillor Hall.
Yes, I'd like to add to the motion, and I'll read that out. So it's a new motion it's the same, but with a point 2. So I'll read out the motion, that the council respond to the Minister, Council 1. Response to the Minister for Local Government, the Honourable Melissa Horn, as per attached letter drafted by the Mayor following discussions at a council briefing, and 2, request in person meeting with the Minister and all councillors following the receipt of the letter from Council.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Chamberlain to second. Councillor Hall.
Okay, the letter that councillors have put forward to the Minister here in this report tonight is, in my view, in my opinion, a well-articulated letter. It's not easy for the Mayor to put together such a letter, but I think he's done a good job. We have, as Council, tried to cover all the required responses the Minister sought from councillors. We have asked for details and specifics of allegations and issues of complaints noted in the Minister's letter, but at this stage, Council have not received anything. However, I do believe we've addressed the overall concerns and allegations as best we could. I will note that councillors have spent many hours over 2 workshops on the 2nd of the 10th and the 9th of the 10th in responding to the Minister's letter. There were notes taken in the form of a mind map, and this helped put together the response to the Minister's letter. We took our responses to the Minister seriously and put in considerable amount of time and thought into our replies. I do believe that letter picks up on most of what was discussed in the workshop. Every councillor was asked if they wished to add anything or had chances to discuss, and numerous times throughout the workshop we did ask for input from all councillors. Some councillors emailed their response to other councillors with their input, so every effort was made to be inclusive with allowing councillors to have their input and say. So I can happily say I am supporting this response letter, and I think it did go through a fairly detailed and exhaustive workshops to get to the bottom line and what we sent. I also encourage all of you to take the time to read it. It's a few pages, but it needed to be that length, I think, to cover what was required from the Minister in our reply. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Chamberlain.
Can I reserve? Thank you.
Any other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, I'm not too sure where I sit on this tonight, because I've read this over and over, and I acknowledge that I had opportunity, and there's some words in there that I've suggested as well around the using listening skills as opposed to hearing people as one example in there. But I find the draft a little bit submissive to the actual what the Minister was asking, and also a little bit wordy from my liking. I'm not sure it actually addresses what she's after. There's kind of, to me, I read it and she's got 2 parts to her. She's raising the problems, giving us solutions, but I think we needed to back it up a little bit more with actions. And I acknowledge our acceptance of the good governance frameworks and that now, and our councillor code of conduct will go somewhat towards those actions. But the Minister's included links in her email to us, and maybe they should have been included in the workshop too. So yeah, at the moment, I probably won't be voting in favour of this letter as it stands here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Any other councillors? Councillor Simpson-Norfolk.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. And from the outset, I'll say I don't envy your position having to reply on behalf of all councillors. It's very difficult. And as you're aware, I've written to the Minister twice. The first letter some time ago, and the second one more recently, and I've shared them with the councillors and the community. I don't think I could support this letter, and I mentioned in the briefing that, similar to what Councillor Lowe said, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more action rather than words in reply with the time we've had to try and address some of these concerns. It's not just about the letters that have been written to the Minister. It goes deeper than that in her letter to us, and around culture and around other matters, including undue pressure on the CEO. So I don't think I'll be supporting as it stands. I fear the response that goes back to the Minister in this form may evoke a reply, a response that could be any number of outcomes, could be okay and everything's fine and continue business as usual. I doubt that. Could be another monitor. I hope not. That's a cost to the community, and mindful that last time we had a monitor appointed, everything was performing very well. Everything was well. I think that the issues have come since that time, since the monitor left, and I highlighted that in my letter to the Minister. Where to from here? I guess we'll wait and see if this response gets up and what the response is from the Minister to this letter. I fear, would it be a dismissal of the council? I hope not. I hope that we can work through these issues. Would there be a commission of inquiry? I certainly wouldn't be against that, to draw all the issues out, because as we have collectively said, and some councillors in the room have actually admitted, we have been dysfunctional at some times. We've had resolutions that haven't passed, and the CEO can't do anything without a resolution, which means our community misses out. So I would like to have seen more actions with the time we've had, other than just a workshop to respond to the letter. But we'll wait and see what happens, I guess, here with the vote tonight. But as it stands, Mr Mayor, unfortunately, I can't support the draft letter as it goes up, and I think I made that clear in the briefing that we had on the letter in the first instance. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
You, Councillor Simpendorfer. Other councillors? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was absent at the last workshop, but I was present at the previous workshop, and I think I have seen enough and read and heard enough of the ideas of various councillors circulated by email or voiced during briefings to put me in the position to respond to this. Firstly, with respect, I would like to object to the couple of points made here, that the letter is wordy and that the letter hasn't been backed by enough action. Again, with respect, the concerns voiced by other councillors, as well as some of the concerns voiced in the letter, have not, in my opinion, been backed by enough examples. I honestly am not sure how to back up with actions, concerns, and allegations that haven't been backed up by examples. Actions should follow exactly what has been done wrongly, and I'm not sure what it was in many instances. Secondly, it's really hard to, while the letter is long, it's not that long, it's only 4 pages. We get agendas of 1,000 of pages, so that's all right. I think it's a bit hard to address sort of sometimes and somewhat generic concerns in a letter that has less or much less words than that. I would also like to take this opportunity to remind the councillors of item 8.2 we voted on today, our code of conduct. I believe we should use it a lot more extensively. For example, part 4 of our code of conduct prescribes that we councillors try to deal with as many issues in-house before taking it up. From my point of view, we haven't had nowhere near enough in-house discussions. While it was suggested, we had some facilitated meetings when discussing CEO's performance and when discussing our council relationships with external facilitator. I myself suggested that councillors who have grievances might want to have another externally facilitated discussion to address their concerns directly. However, this hasn't been followed through. And I believe we as a group of 7 should show a lot more goodwill and following our code of conduct, which we have just accepted, to have more open, honest and transparent in-house discussions before we take it up any further. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain, you reserved.
Yes, I will be supporting the sending of this letter through to Minister Horn. My only, and it's not a criticism, but my only comment is it's probably more wordy than I may have written it, but then I'm quite thankful of the fact that I didn't have to write it. Again, on the thing of not being enough action, I understand the comments. But having said that, the letter from Minister Horn was very light on actual allegations, which makes it very difficult to specifically respond. I think this has responded to all of the points in that letter, and as such, I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hall to close.
Just a couple of points. Councillors had every opportunity to suggest actions to put into the letter. I mean, we had two workshops where I think they went over at least 2 to 3 hours. We have councillor only time briefings in the on our every Monday. There's every opportunity to raise any of those actions that could be suggested. It does state in the letter that if there is any complaints or issues, that they should be sent to the appropriate authorities, or, you know, as Councillor Coolidge just said, you know, taken up with councillors and discussed on a more lower level. And I think that's always the first choice to do that. And if you want to escalate it further, if not, you know, you can get what you're looking for, an agreement, take it further. I think councillors deserve that. We also had a team building workshop back on the 22nd of the 5th this year. We had a whole day with a consultant who spoke with us and tried, you know, went through ways that we can better communicate and bring up any issues councillors had between each other. We were encouraged to do that and to talk about those things. We had the same sort of workshop back last year in June when we first, I think it was either before our new CEO or just after. So, you know, we've had the opportunities, and it's up to each individual. We're representing the community, and they want the best. They want the best from their representatives, and that's what we should be doing. And that's what I intend to do. I'm committed to the community. I've always only been ever want is to represent the people that, you know, that live in this area, this city. It's a fantastic city, and I think as councillors, that's what we need to be doing, and move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. I put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Hall, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Quilty. Those against? Councillor Simpendorfer, Councillor Poulton and Councillor Lowe. The motion is carried. The next item on our agenda is 8.4, Draft Community Funding Request Policy. Do I have a motion? Councillor Chamberlain.
As per recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lowe. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, this is a motion to put our new draft community funding request policy out for feedback for 21 days. I think it's a good policy. Hopefully the people will read it and give us some constructive feedback so we can take that on board in our final decision once it's been done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, I originally voted against making this policy combine the way it is now, but that was voted against, so I'll be voting in what's presented in a month's time after it's gone out for the draft community feedback. We can put my opinions behind and we'll listen to the community and we'll move on from there, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Other councillors? Councillor Poulton.
Yeah, like Councillor Lowe, I was happy with the process we had in place previously, but I mean, if we're going to be genuine and put things out for 21 days, it would be a bit foolish not to actually wait and debate the community feedback, I think, rather than worrying what we think about what's in front of us. That'll receive my support tonight. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Other councillors? Councillor Coulty.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. just to echo the other councillors, I'll be I'll be looking forward to hearing the community feedback on this document. I am very happy with what the staff have drafted for us. I think it's a very clear document with detailed enough but simple to follow guidelines, objectives of community grants, guidelines for applying for funding, categories of funding, and eligible entities. I believe this document achieves the purpose of expanding rather than narrowing the scope of entities that may apply. And the last but not the least, it is good to have it as part of the budget process to be able to see how much money and what is on the table in front of us, and to see grants as part of the bigger picture and our community groups as part of the bigger picture during this budget process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coulty. Other councillors? No other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Yeah, no, I think it probably can go for a vote. I think, as I said, it's appropriate that it goes out for community feedback, and it'll be interesting to see what the community comes back with. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item is item 8.5, proposed road names in Baranduda Fields, public submission. Councillor Hall.
Yes, I propose to move the recommendation. This is, oh, sorry.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Simpendorfer. Councillor Hall.
Okay, these road names for Baranduda Fields Sporting Precinct have been on public feedback. The Place Names Committee during our last meeting, with I'm chair of, discussed the two submissions received that were not supportive of the proposed names. The committee, after a good discussion on the submissions, voted unanimously to proceed with the proposed names listed in the report. That being Athletic Avenue and Champion Crescent. It was thought by the committee that names which were broad in their meaning and didn't focus on one particular sporting code or activity was probably the better way to go. We thought that the sporting grandstands and the fields within the precinct could be named if they choose to, or whatever happens down the track, whoever takes the lease or whatever happens there. So that could better identify the different sporting sporting in different sporting terms or greats within the sporting grounds which will be used. So we decided to keep it a bit of a more neutral in the term of sporting names and keep it as we did, and that was the reason behind it. So yes, I put that forward to the council for a decision.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Simpendorfer.
Just quickly, Mr Mayor, I'll support the recommendation as it is and thank the Place Names Committee for their work on this. I think it's never an easy task when you're trying to, I guess, name these new significant streets, and I think they come up with some really good options there. As it says, it's not really highlighting a particular sport or person just yet, and I'll be supporting it as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. Other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, I didn't envy the Places Names Committee for this one either, and I actually took it to my son's mates. I said, what do you think of these names? And figured out that Champion is now, you get champed these days apparently. Hey, champ. So the whole discussion ended up more around the champ than it did about the name. So I thought they probably weren't going to be the best source to grab a couple of names from. So I've got nothing further to add to them in what names to suggest. So thank you. I'll be supporting it.
You, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'll be supporting this tonight too. The names are very generic, and that's as Councillor Lowe's just pointed out, that was fairly deliberate. I've got to say, I would have hoped that we'd have had a lot more than 2 submissions to the Place Names Committee, but I do appreciate the work they put in. And to be fair, I didn't put any submission in either, because naming things is a very difficult process. You're never going to please everybody. And as I say, the generic names are probably appropriate, given that as this complex develops, there's going to be a number of different sporting fields and things that are going to require names, and some more specific names will probably be appropriate for those. So yeah, in closing, I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Other councillors? Back to Councillor Hall to close.
No, I'm happy to move the motion. Yeah, thank you.
Put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item is 8.6, proposed road discontinuance and sale, McFarland Road, Wodonga. Do I have a motion? Councillor Lowe?
As per recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Poulton, Councillor Poulton in the nick of time. Councillor Lowe, to you.
Yeah, I'm going to move as per recommendation. When this first got presented to council, I wasn't sure how Part B and the map was going to work, where the existing car parking is for an existing old solicitors, I think it was, what was down there. But I've had my queries around that answered with making sure that there's always going to be pedestrian access through this development. And further to that, I was thinking, even if there wasn't, there's a footpath on the other side that you could always get access through as well. This is in a residential area, and the people in this area will be thankful that something's finally getting done with this site, and I think it's a great outcome for the City of Wodonga to have more investment into its out of a CBD and offering more jobs and access to pharmacy, and that it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Poulton? Reserve. Any other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain?
Yeah, much like Councillor Lowe, when this originally came to us to have a look at in a briefing, I was very reticent about the idea around land parcel B. Never really keen on the idea of leasing road reserves for car parking for a specific operation. Having said that, as Councillor Lowe pointed out, our requests for more information were answered, and on balance I think I'm going to support this. Certainly I don't think the sale of land parcel A is at all controversial, but I think the land parcel B was the only thing I had any second thoughts about, but on balance I think I will go ahead and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we go to Councillor Hall, for purposes of clarification, this report before us is only in relation to the discontinuance of Part A. The component Part B is there for our information and it's not part of our decision making tonight. Councillor Hall?
Yeah, it's already been given, has been given planning approval to develop a medical centre, shop, pharmacy. So I think, you know, with the growing community, we're probably going to need more medical centres, and so it's probably something that, you know, we should encourage and work with them if we can to get it developed and get the appropriate approvals. So yes, I'll be supporting it.
Other councillors? Councillor Poulton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm comfortable to support this one this evening. I will note, though, I had a substantial headache after that councillor briefing when we put this one on the table. I just want to acknowledge through yourself and the CEO how valuable it is to have our appropriate staff in the room when we converse some of these reports, because we ended up down some sort of holes where we had no idea what was going on, but all the questions were adequately answered in a timely manner. And I'm glad to see we're all feeling comfortable with this one now by the sounds of things. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Lowe to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, just to recap, in essence, it's we're selling land parcel A, which is no good to council, which I think is a big benefit for off-street car parking use for the medical centre and the pharmacy. It was a piece of land sitting there. We've always talked about divesting land that is of no use, and this is a good outcome for the community, especially with the budgets coming up and the annual reports, and we're a little bit tight in areas. Thank you.
Thank you for closing. The CEO has just asked me to clarify that we are not actually selling. We're going to public consultation prior to making a decision to sell. So thank you. I put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item is item 8.7, the proposed sale of land at lot 248 in Logic. Do I have a motion? Councillor Poulton? Thank you. A seconder? Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I note it might seem a little bit odd for those that do pay quite a bit of attention to Wodonga Council business that this particular motion comes to us publicly. Traditionally, the way we've dealt with proposed sales of land out of Logic have been in camera at the request of a commercial confidence matter with a lot of our potential investors into our city. In this case, they were happy for us to discuss it publicly in the first instance. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge my councillor colleagues, even though some in the room have only joined more recently to this conversation, but around the significance and importance of that asset that is Logic in Baranduda North. When we first started this council term, we were given a proposal, I guess, a proposition in front of us, which didn't sit well, and we've been on a fair discovery since then. And all I can say is these 7 councillors and the patient officers to try to understand what it was 7 councillors were expecting on behalf of their community. Listened, helped us navigate through, and have successfully executed to a point where our asset is truly valued, where it appropriately sits in the market, and there's significant interest now in comparison to some years and months gone by. So I think it's a pat on the back for everybody in this organisation on behalf of those that would have had the original vision to, I guess, conduct this experiment, I guess, as a local government. It is a very unique situation for us to essentially be a developer, but it will pay dividends and windfalls appropriately towards the community that I guess through controversy backed the councillor group at the time to make such a bold decision to head this direction, and we are well and truly back on path and on track and heading in the right direction on behalf of the community with this significant investment. Doesn't mean it's smooth sailing and it's all hunky-dory, but this will be a good one for the, I guess, the community to see, and it's great for it to be a public conversation in the first instance. Thank you, Mr Mayor. It will receive my support.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be supporting this, and I can only follow up on Councillor Poulton's talking points. I think it's important that Logic goes ahead and we make the most of it. It's been a very expensive exercise for the ratepayers of Wodonga, and we need this thing to be successful. We're working towards that end, and can I just say, as I think the first of the offers that we've got from our appointed real estate people, it's good to see that they've actually come through with something happening, and hopefully that will be the first of many. And I will be supporting it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Hall?
Yeah, look, I support this sale. It will be subject to a heads of agreement being entered into, but you know, look, we're getting more and more interest in Logic. It's you know, it's turned into and I hope it continues, turned into a great asset. You know, this company that's making the offer is Vic Cans Australia, and it commenced operations in 1981 in Victoria with their primary focus on metal and plastic packaging. And over the years, they've established themselves as a key manufacturer and supplier of metal and plastic packaging industry globally. So, you know, it's a fairly significant company to attract. It brings more jobs and, you know, helps with our commercial rating income. So I think all in all, it's a good proposal.
Thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Lowe?
I just want to pick up on the point of Councillor Poulton saying that the vendor or the purchaser agreed to make this public. So we can't always, it's always up to the purchaser whether they want to make it public or that we do this in commercial and confidence. So before we get points and messages to say everyone should be made in public, I do advocate that it's totally the purchaser's choice to whether they're happy for us to talk about their business. In saying that, I welcome Vic Cairns to our community and to Logic when they set up out there. They're going to be setting up out there with 8 or 9 full-time jobs and 3 or 4 part-time jobs and some casual jobs out there too. So it's more opportunity for our community to have access to a workforce that's only 15 minutes down the road. So I'll be voting in favour tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for clarity, I'll point out again, this one's going out for public exhibition. We haven't resolved for the actual sale until after the formal process. Any other councillors? No. Back to Councillor Poulton to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly can be a little bit confusing for those that aren't. I guess, you know, we're sort of taking these things in throughout briefings and processes, so how we conduct our debate or our support for or against something can sometimes be a little bit muddy, but that's okay. We're all guilty of that. I just want to reiterate the significant work over the last 3 years to get to this point. It's been uncomfortable, but also we've had potential purchasers that have stood by us over many months as we've said, hey, we're not quite ready for you to come to the city yet. We're trying to get our ducks in a row and sort out where we stand as a developer. So, or reimagine, I guess, where we're up to with our previous vision. So, and I just want to also acknowledge, because I wasn't there, the good work that the CEO and yourself, Mr. Mayor, conducted week before, with an open day out there to really display to industry and government departments and what have you that we're here, we're open for business, and no doubt that'll only continue to attract and provide interest in this city and opportunities like this particular proposal in front of us that the community will get to have a say on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item before us is an updated hospital advocacy, item 8.8. Councillor Chamberlain.
At this stage, as per recommendation, if I may.
Seconded, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Chamberlain.
This is a tough one, given the fact that we've, well, again, it's fairly straightforward in as much as we receive and note the hospital advocacy progress report. That's appropriate. But given the action today, in as much as Wodonga and Albury Council were at a briefing session from Albury Wodonga Health and Health Infrastructure New South Wales about the master plan going forward, there'll be a lot more to be said on this subject very shortly, I would suggest. I think the goings on today were a little underwhelming, can I say that? Which may have already been reported. And as much as I'd love to go into a hell of a lot more detail right here and now, I don't think it's the appropriate time. We may get ourselves into more trouble than we want to be. But we will be digging deeply into that stuff and comparing it to previous paperwork and seeing how it all washes out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Other councillors? Councillor Hall?
Yes, look, I support the recommendation. I think there's yet to be had a bigger discussion around this, and I think it's after going to the meeting today to look at the new master plan, which isn't fully detailed as yet. I think we need to bring that information that we did receive today and have a more of a discussion with the councillors as a group, and also we have invited 16 other councils in the coming weeks, and would give an opportunity to discuss that information with them as well. So I think it's an open space at this moment, and we will look at providing our feedback and more information going forward. But at this stage, I think we'll just accept the report that we've got here, and we'll wait and see. Thank you.
Other councillors? Councillor Simpendorfer?
Yeah, just thinking on my feet, Mr Mayor, I just won't speak to obviously what happened today, and I missed that due to work commitments, and appreciate the other councillors there, but I will support obviously the report as a progress report, but I just want to acknowledge the work that some of the groups in our community are doing. Some are here tonight. That advocacy piece is extremely important, and when we stand with them as best we can to support moving forward, and what is I won't say that, which is a work in progress, let's put it that way. I won't say what I was going to say, but I just want to acknowledge the work that different parts of our community are doing. It's very valuable, it's extremely grateful, and we'll hope to work with you a lot more closer as we move forward and move through this. So thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Quilty?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer, for making this point. I think it's a very good one. Our community is our strength. We have a diverse community with various interest groups, but I think everybody, regardless of their political standard or standing or walks of life, agrees on our dire need for much better medical services. I must admit, several councillors have already taken a piece out of me for falling asleep during the workshop this afternoon. I don't know whether it was because of my jet lag or because it was a bit underwhelming, but I would like to see a lot more information than I have received this afternoon. I'm happy with our progress report on hospital advocacy. I congratulate our community groups, our mayor, CEO, and my fellow councillors on the many efforts they have put into this advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lowe?
I'll be voting in favour of supporting the advocacy document tonight, and our continued support is needed after what I've seen today. The master plan, and I'll put that in inverted brackets for you. I'm not sure what master put that plan together, but I wouldn't be calling them master. The plan lacked everything, actually. Connectivity, car parking, jobs, resources, services. The service plan's not actually out till later this year or early next year, so how they can have one before the other, I'm not totally sure. But all that they kept saying was that the detail will come out, but a master plan is detail. So, yeah, we might end up with better drawings, but the better drawings is not actually a better health outcome for our community, and that's what we're trying to achieve out of all this. Our community now has an opportunity to actually speak to this master plan. So can I urge both sides of the border to really stand up and ask of this master plan and Albury Wodonga Health and let them know what you really want. Because at the moment, this master plan is not masterful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. I might take the opportunity that I'm given under our rules that says I can speak so long as I speak last, and the changes we just made to our rules that are draft that are going out to consultation. So that should be done before any councillor reserved their right. So I look at this from the point of view of the information received today was quite underwhelming, but I want to absorb the information. I want to look through it, understand it, and see what's in it, and then make a fully informed judgment, and then come out and be very, very open about my views about this. I can see an awful lot of things on the face of it, but I want to go into the detail, what little there is, and find out exactly how this is going to fit together. I want to look at it in detail to see how the clinical services plan matches up with the master plan for what it is. The master plan to me come across as a very interesting piece of architecture work, but there's no evidence that I can come across right at the moment that shows how that relates back to the actual services and things that are to be delivered. So I need to go through this in far more detail and understand how it fits together, and then I'll be coming out with a far more public statement about what I think of it. And I think we have to be fair to the people that have been involved in doing the work that's been done to date, and the staff of infrastructure, Health Infrastructure New South Wales. And I think to do that, we need to actually go back and really solidly look through what they've got and come out with a quite informed decision and informed opinion as to what it produces or doesn't produce, what's lacking, what things might be inadequate. So from that point to the point of the information that's in the document, we've been doing a lot of work. We've got another meeting coming up with the 16 councils. I think it's towards the end of this month. And that's probably going to be the most important gathering that we'll have for a while in regard to our hospital. I too would like to thank those community organisations and groups and the Border Medical Association people for doing the work that they've been doing, tireless and sometimes at their own potential risk. And I think we should all be applauding those people for doing what they're doing. To Councillor Poulton, reserve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't reserve my right for any strategic reason other than to try to think of which way I speak about this, in the sense that there's so many things I could say. I don't want to get off topic. Obviously, the report will receive, in the motion that is before us, receives my support, I should say, this evening. I just want to put on record, though, my gut feeling isn't good. And I think when you've been in a few situations in life, whether you've been somehow conned into some real estate investment, or when you get into those rooms, you just go, oh, geez, this just doesn't feel right. I've felt uneasy about this whole thing for over 12 months. I've fielded lots of feedback from different people, some that have told me to be quiet and accept what's there, and that's just not naturally me. And I just think of myself as I think I was probably 9, maybe 10 at the time when that current facility was finalised, and the big open day, and I took my little 20-inch BMX bike down and scooted through the corridors of a hospital before the patients in there, obviously. And I just think of my kids at that similar age now, and we're, as a collective community with 16 other councils, but unfortunately Wodonga feels a bit isolated, I believe, sometimes, have to try to stand up for the best possible outcome for not just our city, but the entire surrounding region. I think of my kids that have been hospitalised in the last 12 months while this conversation's being had, and doesn't feel like we get any further any quicker. And that discomfort, that gut feeling, which is never wrong, it never lies to you. And look, maybe it's just my cynicism. It gets grander as I get exposed to more things. But I just felt that it's an appropriate time tonight to say this feels really uncomfortable. And for anybody who says, "I'll just accept it," or anybody who says, "Oh, it'll be Wodonga's fault that it fell over," I'd rather it fall over so someone can come back together reasonably at a table with a set of crayons and we can draw it as a community and get what we actually need. Because I fully feel today as I walked away and they're focusing on $500 million in a master plan, the first thing I said to a couple of people in the room was, we're $1.5 billion short. That's what it felt like, and I think everybody in the room felt that way. It just doesn't feel good, let me tell you. So thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
I thank the other councillors for their comments. I too thank the community organisations and the Board of Medical Association for their help, I suppose, and support in this. What I think is probably the most important bit of work that we're going to do as a council. Now, we're not going to build any hospital. We're not going to put any car parking in. We're not going to do any of that stuff. But I think the health outcomes for the people of Albury, Wodonga and the surrounding areas, and that's critical, is priority number one. It should be priority number one. We deserve the best. Just because we happen to be on a border, I don't feel like we're being taken seriously by state governments on both sides. And today's master plan, and again, we've got to go into it further, but to be perfectly honest, there's not a whole lot to go into because it was very short on detail. It didn't give us any numbers. It didn't give us any sort of information that we can even compare to previous plans, which we wanted to try and do, and we wanted to see where we stood. And as for Councillor Poulton's gut, I too am very uncomfortable about where this is heading, and I think this advocacy is absolutely critical and we need to move forward with it. It's one of the things that this council is and has been unanimous on, and that's a good thing, and I think we need to move forward to do the best things for the people of Wodonga, Albury and the surrounding area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next item is item 8.9, Wodonga Senior Citizens Centre redevelopment feasibility. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Hall. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lowe, Councillor Hall.
We've been discussing this for some time and talking about it, and I support the recommendation. It gives council an opportunity to have a shovel-ready project in a year or so time. This money is for some to complete some designs and what have you, and will be in the next year's 2024-25 budget. It will budget and so it'll be new funding. We'll hopefully seek some investment funding for the new development for the Senior Citizens Building and a new, better equipped home for the Historical Society, which do need to come back into our CBR. I think it's the better position for them and gives us an opportunity to showcase our history. I think they deserve a better venue, and I think the senior citizens deserve a better venue because our seniors are ever-growing people in our population, and so I think it's just will tie the whole precinct over there once that's complete, which we don't know when that will be, but it'll give us an opportunity to seek funding, and I think that's where we need to head with this development. So thank you.
Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, I'll be supporting this recommendation tonight too. For those who can see the agenda at home online, it's on page 244, the choice of three plans, draft plans that we've been presented with, and they've all got their pros and cons. And the cheaper option is the one that we're voting on tonight, but there's an element of that cheaper option that further down the track, if depending on the feasibility study and the study of the draft plans that should be looked at, is about providing spaces for some income streams that you see that the option 1 or 2 had, or option 1 had. And the reason why I'd like to explore those options being included into that cheaper option is because of, as it stands, it's just a recurrent expense. But when you can provide income into a venue, then you can also offset that recurrent spending, so it's cheaper for the community. It's a much needed venue and a much needed update. As Councillor Hall said, we're an ageing population, and not only do we need to look after our senior cits, but they're also our volunteers in our community. They're the ones that are out there a lot helping out. So it's something that we should be providing a place for them to meet and greet and do whatever they would like to do there. It'll also finish the precinct that we've got out there. You know, we've got the Cube, the library, and it's just a way of finalising that whole district in there, which in itself will draw people into the area, and to give Wodonga Historical Society another venue to showcase their wares. It won't be able to house the whole lot, I wouldn't imagine, but it'll be able to house the important parts of our history. So I'd like to see when it comes back. Another worthy note too, just before I wind up, is we all agree that there's tight times ahead. So picking an option that is the cheaper option and waiting for some funding to come through is the appropriate course of action for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Other councillors? Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Wholeheartedly believe in respecting your elders, wholeheartedly in believing delivering a community outcome that is respectful to an ageing community, and that's the population in Australia full stop, and society as a whole. A little disappointed that we're at option 3, the cheapest option. I shared a bit of this, I guess, with councillors in one of the briefings when this came before us, because I guess when we went through this process with the consultant, and they listened to community groups and listened to the council, and one of the biggest things we have is community spaces. A shortage, I should say, one of the biggest shortages we have, and the feedback we commonly get as councillors is, oh, there might be a blue in the community here because people aren't sharing this accurately, and you can never have enough space, and as our population grows, I think we probably need to do something a bit better, but also cognizant of the financial impact of that. So I'm a bit torn because I really want to support it and support this unanimously and go forward and say, hey, we're finalising the cultural piece. By the by, I think something a bit more attractive than senior citizens. I know once I get to a certain age, I don't want to be probably called that. So if we find a more youthful and trendy way to encapsulate that part of our community, I'm sure that'd be, I think we're all chasing eternal youth. So, so let's address that through the process. But look, ultimately, I think I will support this tonight, but I wish we could do just that little bit better with that development. But as I said, cognizant of that financial impact. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to start by thanking our staff for working with the designers and for taking in our input and for coming up with different options. The design and the 3 options presented to us are not without merit. They all talk about multi-purpose buildings and getting value for money. However, not so many years from now, I will also be 60 and 70, and the report talks about aging population making 25% of Wodonga by 2058. I will hopefully be in my late 70s. My hope is my children and grandchildren won't be puzzling what to do with this 2020 style architecture that's dilapidating and we can't pay the rates. I will not be supporting the recommendation just because, in my opinion, we cannot afford it. We have several buildings in the precinct, that costs us, I won't even mention how much it costs us in capital, it costs us 2 million every year to upkeep. We have Cube, which is also wonderful, but it costs us a bit under 1 million every year to upkeep. We are talking about spending 400,000 possibly in 24-25 budget, and waiting for contribution from other tiers of government towards this capital redevelopment. Well, I've seen the federal budget, I've seen the state budget. I'm just not that optimistic about various tiers of government giving us a whole lot of money. I won't be quoting option 1, 2, and 3 estimates of how many million we are looking at spending, because we will spend more. Projects never, not in Wodonga, not in anywhere in the world, projects never stay under budget, and we just can't afford it. 400,000. I would love our senior citizens to have a palace to have balls in, to our community groups to have a wonderful multifunctional facility. And I would love to see our Wodonga Historical Society in the center. And I think it's important to think about these things when we just start designing the precinct, not when we are looking at putting the final piece of the puzzle. I would rather spend the 400,000 on fixing up what we have at the moment as much as we can. We have Baranduda Fields that will suck out millions and millions of dollars out of this council, out of the ratepayers every year. And I think we should wait a few years until we're managing the cost of hyphen better, until we can see the light at the end of the tunnel in Baranduda Fields, before we can fork out a few more millions on something that we so much want. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Question, Councillor Poulton?
Just around around a point Councillor Quilty made where she said nothing ever comes in under or on budget. My memory might be sketchy, so I'm hoping there might be somebody else in the room with better memory, but I think, did we deliver hyphen on budget or pretty damn close to? I know Baranduda Fields isn't, but I'm pretty certain we did all right, didn't we? I'm very confident the staff did a really good job of cost management on that project.
Councillor Poulton, the staff did a very good job of cost management with the revisited budget. There was, I think, I can't remember the exact amounts, but we did revisit the budget and change it through the process, and I can't remember the reasons why, but it's probably, certainly the revised budget was met. Any other councillors wish to speak on this? Councillor Chamberlain?
Yes, as has been pointed out, and I think you'd have to be living under a rock not to realise it, but the entire country, if not the world, is going to have some tough winds ahead in the next few years when it comes to finances. But I think it is appropriate that we maybe organise this to get it to the point where it's shovel ready, so if there is the possibility of getting some funding for it from state or federal, that we're ready to go, because if we're not ready to go, the chances of getting any funding is fairly minimal. I don't know that we've got the finances or we're going to be in the position to fund it all ourselves. I'd love to be able to go with option 1 because it would be grand and magnificent, but it comes with a few risks as well as a few possibilities as well. Option 3 I think is the most sensible, given it's the cheapest one. And the fact that the senior citizens will in fact have a space there that they will be able to sublet, which they already do in their current building, and the possibility, as has been stated, of bringing the Historical Society back into town. I remember almost shedding a tear when they were pushed out of town and stuck out of Bungilla. They do a wonderful job, and we need to remember what our history is about, and the opportunity to bring them back here would be fantastic. So I will be supporting this at this point on, the proviso that we are aware that although we're trying to get this to a point where it's shovel ready, we're not at this stage committing the money to actually build it. We're just getting prepared that if we get the opportunity to do so, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Other councillors? No. Before we go to Councillor Hall, I'd just like to acknowledge the really good piece of work that was done by Officer Hogg in bringing this project to us and justifying the options and, or more particularly, the recommendation that's been put before us. It was over and above the things that normally happen when we get these sort of projects presented to us, and it was quite impressive work. I'd just like to say thank you for that work. Back to Councillor Hall to close.
Yes, I was just reading that the persons whose rights will be directly affected in this decision is citizens over 55, and I'm well over that, so maybe I'm looking after myself. But anyway, yes, this it's over a 2-year period. It's 355, but the 395 will go into the 24-25 budget. But hopefully around that time, that's when the next probably federal election, and around that time going forward, state elections, you never know. So we've got to have something ready so we can take it out there. The precinct attracts over 350 visitors per annum, so it's got the ability to, you know, if we finish that off, to really make it a grand area. The population, older people aged over age 70 to 84 are forecast to make up the largest increase in persons between 2021 and 24, and accounted for 11.2% of the total persons in Wodonga. So we really do need to, and I've said this for quite a few years, we really do need to be looking forward with our older citizens, and yes, I understand the complexities of trying to get funding, but I think if you're haven't got anything ready to go out and try and source funding, then you won't achieve anything. So I'll be supporting the motion.
Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Councillor Lowe, Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Hall, Councillor Milton, Councillor Poulton and Councillor Simpendorfer. Those against? Councillor Quilty. The motion is carried. The next item is item 8.10, Independent Member for Audit and Risk Committee. Do I have a motion? Councillor Chamberlain.
As the recommendation, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Simpendorfer. Councillor Chamberlain.
At this point in time, the independent, or one of the independent members of the Audit and Risk Committee, there are 3. There are 2 permanent council members at this stage, of which I have the pleasure of being one, and Councillor Quilty is the other. The Audit and Risk Committee is absolutely critical to the operation of the way this council works. They need to keep track of what we're doing and how we're going about it, and they give us great feedback. This recommendation is for the reappointment of one of the independent members who has the ability to serve, I believe, a 3-year term with the option of being renewed for 2 more 3-year terms if possible. She served her first 3 years and has been a very valuable member, and her experience and input into the committee has been well worth it. And I think going forward it's worthwhile that we renew this tenure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Simpendorfer.
Yeah, well summarised there by Councillor Chamberlain, so I won't add any more to the context other than thanking those on the ARC, the councillors, the staff and the volunteers, or the independent members I should say, volunteers, the independent members with their skills and their knowledge and what they bring. It's a tough gig, but very important nonetheless, and one we respect highly, so I'll be supporting this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. And Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Chamberlain, for holding the fort with the September meeting of Audit and Risk Committee while I was on leave. I would like to reiterate that we are very privileged to have professional, responsible and dedicated independent members on our Audit and Risk Committee. They are our assets, including the committee member we're talking about reappointing today. I will be supporting the recommendation. I would like, however, to point out that the decision was made to reappoint the member without going to the market and seeing who else is out there. This decision was made for good reasons. I possibly would have agreed with that. I would have liked, maybe in the interest of seeing who is out there and what our situation is in attracting independent members to go out to market. However, I'm very happy that we have this particular member on board. I thank her for the contributions over the last 3 years, and I will be looking forward to working with this member in the continuing tenure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Courty. Other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, just to respond to Councillor Quilty's statement about why we didn't go out and investigate who else was out there as a possible member of this committee is for a couple of reasons. One, we didn't think that it was absolutely necessary given the performance and the experience that this member brings. And to be perfectly honest, one of the sidebars is we will get the opportunity to see what's out there because there will be another position that needs to be filled because of a resignation that's going to be forthcoming. So we will be looking at a new member on this committee, and the committee itself actually considered that the experience and the continuity of retaining this member was probably important going forward to make sure that we knew and there was some continuation as to what we were about. As I said, this is an extremely important committee, and it's been a privilege to serve on, to be honest, and although there's a fair bit of reading involved, but I think she's been a good member, and I think it's well worthwhile that we reappoint her. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. After she's notified. Item 8.11, September 2023 Quarterly Finance Report. Before we move into this item, I might ask Mr. CEO if you can get your director to give us a brief rundown of what's involved with this report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report provides a summary of the financial performance of Council from the last quarter until the end of September 2023 and shows the actual results of the quarter and the proposed variations. There's an increase in the operating deficit of $139,000, being a slight reduction in grants, and an increase of $110,000 for the financial sustainability review that was approved previously by Council. Further, there's an increase in the capital revenue due to the settlement of land at CBD West for $1.87 million. The actual income is currently higher than what's budgeted for the period, and the actual expenses are lower than the budgeted expenses for this quarter. The majority of the variances are timing differences, apart from the reduction in salary and on costs due to reduced staffing and vacancies. In the report, we also look at, now that the financial statements for 22-23 have been finalised and final opinions received from Vargo, we present the rebudgeting of items and amounts that were budgeted in the 22-23 financial year and were committed but not expended. This includes rebudgets previously recommended by the Budget and Finance Committee and approved at the September Council meeting. So the effect on the forecast for 30 June 2024 can be summarised. So we've got Council's net operating budget deficit, not including the capital grants and the transfer to reserves, has increased to 10.1 million from a deficit of 81,000. A large portion of this is the finance is the FAGs, the Financial Assistance Grants income of 6.5 million, which was actually paid and recaptured in the 22-23 financial year, as well as the transfer expenses budgeted from last year but haven't been expended as yet. In relation to the capital budget, the net capital budget is now 21.6 million as compared with the original budget of 14.5 million, amounting to a total capital works program for the year of $30 million. This net budget includes $5 million in grant income, which includes $4 million for Baranduda Fields, which is yet to be received, and nearly $600,000 for the exhibition centre redevelopment. Less $14 million in capital works expenditure brought forward. And finally, council are projecting a cash position of 27.3 million, which is up 1.6 million from the original budget. And this is a result of the budget variations that we've already discussed. The full details of the rebudgets can be found in the attachments to the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Councillor Chamberlain.
As per recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Quilty, Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, this variation is nothing unusual, in as much as budgets become a very live document. It's all very nice to have a lot of work, which we do, a massive amount of work, and the staff do a hell of a lot more in preparing the budget and trying to get it as accurate as possibly can be. But given the fact that we deal with other entities, not least being state governments and federal governments with their grants and their timings and bits and pieces, and of course variations in staffing level and therefore wages, and also there's a number of different variations that occur, and these have to be allowed for, which is why we revisit this on a quarterly basis. Again, can I thank the Finance Department for the tireless work that they put in to keep on top of this stuff regularly, in particular with some things that tend to come to us unannounced and that we may not necessarily be fully prepared for, but we have to deal with them in any case. So I will be supporting this document. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Quilty.
Mr. Mayor, through you, I would like I did this morning in the briefing, but I'd like to make this question public. I would like to request the explanation of why these items listed in the report, in particular the traffic signals at Silver Drive School Crossing are proposed to be rebudgeted from 22-23 to 23-24, the reasons for that, and if possible, the amounts we're looking at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Councillor Quilty, the rebudgeted items have been identified as unlikely to be progressed during the current financial year due to a number of matters outside of council or council staff's direct influence. As an example, the Silver Drive project, the designs for the signals are currently still in a preliminary state. They still need to be reviewed by council staff. We then need to progress potentially early in the new year to a tender process, with a completion of the project unlikely to be completed by the end of June. We thus identified that as a project that we will reconsider in the 24-25 budget process once we have a design that is final and costs that are more accurate, to be able to put that to the councillors for consideration.
Just as a point of clarification, the Silver Drive lights design is a project being undertaken by external designers, and it's not part of the process that we do in-house, correct?
That's quite correct, Mr. Mayor. Those are done by external consultants, external specialists who, whose field of expertise is in traffic signals and that kind of work. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all finance staff for providing explanation. The report was given to us only a couple of days ago, which is fine given the complexity and how much time goes into the preparation. And I believe that the report accompanying all the figures and the detailed explanation provided during the briefing and during this meeting helped a lot to comprehend it. We have a number of priority projects and we have hopes and expectations, and I believe it's very important to look quarterly very closely at where we sit in terms of the budget, what needs to be rebudgeted, what shifts a bit high and what a bit low in terms of the priority, and sometimes it's not our choice, but the dependency on external parties. I will be supporting this recommendation, and yeah, it may not look as sunny as I would like it to look, but this is, we are keeping a close look on that here and in Budget and Finance Committee, and will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'd just like to take this opportunity to again thank the staff, not only in the finance department, but in every department that goes towards making these budgets work. There's a lot of work goes into it. They're moving all the time, and I do appreciate the very good work that they've been doing. They make our life a fair bit easier, and our life's not meant to be easy. So thank you very much, and we'll keep an eye on this at both the Finance and Budget Committee, and I believe the Audit and Risk Committee obviously also takes a very close look at this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Moving on to item 9, reports for noting. 9.1, the annual report 2022-23. Do I have a motion? Councillor Poulton moved as recommended. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Simpendorfer, Councillor Poulton.
Yeah, I forgot you have to speak to it. It's look, it's there for noting. Community should pay attention, read every single document that all councillors read, and you'll love where you live. Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Simpendorfer. Nothing? Any other councillors? Do you wish to close? Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Reports for information. Any questions or anything to be asked? Any comments? No. Notices of motion, there are none. General business. Councillor Simpendorfer.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Timely, I guess, that we spoke about senior citizens. I was in Melbourne during the week and was lucky enough to get an invitation to Government House with one of our community members, Mr. David Martin, is well known in the RSL world. He was the recipient of a Senior Citizens Award for his service. And sorry, David, if I get this wrong, but I think it's like 50 or 50 more years service to the RSL. So that makes you how old, David? But no, very, very impressive contribution to the RSL. Very great to see his family there, to see that award being acknowledged by the Governor-General and other senior citizens that were there at Government House. I was there as a guest, not as a councillor, but just an amazing member of our community that gives so much, like many do. But it's really great to see that someone has nominated Mr. Martin for that, and the Governor-General's acknowledged that contribution and awarded him that award. So congratulations to Mr. Martin, and hopefully more members of our community can nominate others for the recognition they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. Any other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain?
That's a fairly timely point. I congratulate Councillor Simpendorfer on his comments there, and Mr Martin, who I believe was the next Citizen of the Year at Wodonga City, and appropriately so, which is timely in as much as nominations are open for Citizen of the Year, and we'd really like to see people get involved. I want to have our committee, I want them to have a really difficult decision deciding on the best person to be Citizen and Young Citizen of the Year, because we've got some people out there doing some fantastic stuff. And I think it's appropriate that they be nominated, they be recognised. For those who didn't see it earlier, Karen Campbell was here and did our presentation to our Young Achiever before the council meeting, and it's great to get them involved and recognised at both ends the good work that's done out in there in the community. So I just encourage everyone to have a look around and see if you can think of someone that's been doing good stuff and hasn't been recognised and needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Other councillors? The CEO and I attended the Municipal Association of Victoria session most of the end of last week, which was interesting. We will have to do a formal delegates report, but just to cover it off, we had a fairly successful time. We put 3 motions up and all 3 were agreed to. It was good to get conversations with other councillors from around the place, and I think overall it was a fairly successful event for the MAV. They had some strong entertainment in their dinner on the Thursday night, and the procedure for the motions and all the processes of the council was really slick and well done, which is different to some other times when I've been to some of the events. The other event we had a fairly significant, was referred to earlier, we had a significant event at Logic a little while back, and I'd like to invite through the CEO, Officer Mudra, to give us a rundown on the event. Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, thank you. So we did have the event on the 4th of October out at the SCT Intermodal Hub at Logic. We had 100 attendees. There was about 40 different organisations that were represented across those 100 attendees, and that included advanced manufacturing, transport and logistics, defence, education and training, and the state government, and a lot of other local businesses and industries as well. We had a great program of guest speakers, so we had SCT, Port of Melbourne, we had the state government, we had our Mayor and CEO also talk, and also the Australian Rail Track Corporation, the chairman, Peter Duncan, was also there and was one of our guest speakers. Some of the comments that we were hearing on the day was that it was great to get together and to network, to make those connections. It was the time when different partners realised that there was an opportunity to collaborate and to have further conversations around how they could partner in their business or industry. There was a good mix of private and public entities as well. And I think it was a great opportunity to showcase Logic Precinct and what it can offer in a really positive light. And I think from some of the comments of people who hadn't been out there, they were really talking about Logic and what some of them had never been out there before. So they were quite surprised at what Logic can offer, but also the presentation of Logic as well. There was certainly lots of that networking and connections, and also we were able to demonstrate that we were good business partners and that we were, Wodonga Council is open for business, and that also that we did want to have good relationships with all of those various sectors that were invited. So overall, a very positive event. and we have asked for feedback from the participants and what they'd like to see next. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The other thing that I'd like to add to the equation, our events team are pretty well known to be good at what they do, and most of what they've been doing has been, you know, cultural and social events and the like. They transposed into a professional organisation for a professional event in such a way it was first class. The way they worked the room and made sure everybody was looked after, the way the food was set out, the way the room was set out, the way they worked with different individuals to ensure they felt comfortable and understood what was happening was first class. It's an absolute credit to the staff that put that project on, and I think we can look forward to some really good events if we can keep that calibre of operation. The other thing that's coming up is we have the 2050 community engagement process ramping up, and over the next, 12 months probably, we'll be doing a fair bit of contact with all different groups within the community. We'll be inviting people to make submissions. We'll be trying to get ourselves invited to all sorts of different community clubs, meetings, clubs and sporting organisations and social groups, anybody that will invite us, the various service groups, anybody that will invite us to come and give a presentation to their group, we'll be prepared to try and come and make that happen. This is a very important document that is going to set out where the city goes in the next, between now and 2050, we'll say 25 odd years, and I think this is going to be a very, very interesting time for Wodonga City. If we think we've had a lot of growth and a lot of things happen in the past 20 to 25 years, I think this will be exponentially greater, and there's a whole lot of opportunities that are being presented to us. So I'd encourage everybody to get involved and participate in whatever way fits their will. No other general business? No? No urgent business? And tonight we don't have any confidential business. And we don't have any urgent confidential business. So close the meeting by my watch at 7:42. Thank you very much.